Hi guys, and Genuine with a quick video. This is a bit of a deep dive into the GS450H, the S190 model. It's going to be a little bit Doug DeMuro-esque. It's going to be some interesting and boring facts, so if this is your thing, then stick around. You might learn something interesting, because I did when I was researching it. So the first thing we're looking at here is the engine. This is the legendary 2GR FSE. So it's a 60-degree V6 double overhead cam, longitudinally mounted. Basically means three-wheel drive, so it's, the spark plugs are facing kind of left and right when you're looking at it. It's 4 valves per cylinder, chain driven, so that means no belts change, and it's dual Vvti. Its bore is 94mm and its stroke is 83mm. Now that's surprising because that's an over square engine. That usually means higher RPM. But not in this case. So it's a 3,456 cubic centimeter unit, so it's 3.5 basically. Its compression ratio is 11.8 to 1. Now that's pretty high for a 2006 or 2007 car, especially if you look at other things. I mean, other cars at that time, I think high compression cars back then were kind of 11.11 maybe, 11.2, 11.3, maybe even 11.5 at the highest, but I never read of anything coming out that high back then, but I could be wrong on that one, especially from Japan. It uses the D4s direct injection system. That's 2 injectors per cylinder. That's direct and port injection. We'll get into a little bit later. Actually, come back to compression ratio. The 2012 one, that used the 2GR FXE, I think that is, and that has a compression ratio of 13 to 1. So that's up from even 11.8 to 1. So that's super high. But that is that Atkinson cycle motor. But anyway, so your max power in this at 6,400 RPM is 292 brake horsepower. So that's what I was saying about. It's weird that they spec'd in over square engine for this car, but then they're only revving it to 6,400. Now we didn't get the 2GR FE or FSE here. Don't know why, they just never really want to sell any of them cars here. So maybe they rev higher in other specs, but I don't know. Max torque is 368 Newton meters at 4,800 RPM. The 2GR FSE was on the Ward's 10 best engine list from 2006, 7, 8 and 9, so that's impressive. So what I was saying about the 2GR FSE as well is, especially in America, they've got those cars. I think the IS350 got it. The Mark X in Asia, the 350 versions anyway. I think the new Corolla's got it. It makes 313 brake horsepower in all those other cases. But why does it only make 292 brake horsepower here? It's strange. Even the 2GR FE is usually making about 290, 295 brake horsepower. And that's only with port injection, not direct injection. So that is strange. This comes from the family of engines of V6s. Again, we didn't get this engine in the UK, but it was the 4-litre V6, the 1GRs. Everybody says they were super reliable, super tough, really great engines, and obviously this is an evolution of that. The 2GR FE was that, and then the 2GR FSE is obviously an evolution of that, and then it kind of goes on to the XEs and all that kind of stuff. But fantastic engines, really powerful, really stout. So anyway, so the electric motor is type AC, so it's a AC type, synchronous, permanent magnet. It's got a maximum power of 197 max per HP and a maximum torque of 275 Newton meters. It runs on a voltage of 650 volts. The battery is a nickel metal hydride. It's got 240 coils, and that's 6x40 modules, and they run at 288 volts, and the capacity is 6.5 amp hours. Now, according to my research, I couldn't really find much on it. I'd need to get this car on a weighbridge, but according to what I've seen, this car weighs 2,335 kg. I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is true, then what the hell, Toyota? What are you building this out of? Dark matter or something? 2,335 kg. With me in it, it probably weighs about 4 ton. But no, seriously, right? If you're driving this car, I don't know if that's wet or dry as well, but if you're driving this car and you've got a few things in it, you're probably hitting 2.5 tons. That's impressive. I don't know if that's the batteries. I don't know if that's, you know, the drivetrain. I mean, from what I've seen, the 2GR FSE or the 2GR FE as well, they're fairly light engines. I think maybe from 160 to maybe 180 kg of weight. They're not that heavy. The GS450H was the world's first rear-wheel drive full hybrid power sports saloon. That's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? The electric motor generator, power split device, and two-stage motor reduction gear housed in a single lightweight compact longitudinal transmission casing that is a centimetre longer than the 6-speed manual transmission in the IS. So that basically means they've got the motor, the generator, the power split device, which obviously splits the power, two-stage motor reduction, I think that's a CVT basically, and it's all housed in something 1 centimetre longer than just a normal 6-speed gearbox. So that's impressive, isn't it? This is Toyota's own literature that I'm quoting here, so some people say it's different, some people say it's slower, some people say it's faster, but the GS450H can accelerate from 0 to 62 in 5.9 seconds, and from 50 to 75 miles per hour in 4.7 seconds, maintaining linear acceleration all the way to the top speed of 155 miles per hour, with none of the typical jumps between gears experienced in a conventional drivetrain. Obviously, because the CVT, you floor it, it's going to jump to that 6,400 RPM or whatever it runs at, and everything just gets blurry, and you go really fast. I'm not taking this car above 70 because I'm a good driver, but this thing, at higher speeds, it goes. So, coming on to styling, in 1993, the first GS300, that was the Mach 1, was unveiled at the Detroit Motor Show, and in 1998, the GS300 second generation, you know, the one that looks like the guy from Lilo and Stitch, although I did really like that model, it came out in Europe with a 2JZ, but the naturally aspirated one. We didn't get the Aristo twin turbo here, unfortunately. The 430, GS430, was released in 2000, and in 2005, April, the new GS launched in Europe and styled according to the company's new L Finesse design principles. In the UK, we didn't get to 2006, from what I can see anyway, so we usually call them 2006 to 2011. So the exterior styling that they used was something called L Finesse. That was their kind of design language, if you will. So on driving dynamics, I mean, they've gone about weight a bit, which I kind of don't understand because it's still a 2.35 ton car. But anyway, apparently this car's got a 50-50 weight distribution. I don't know if the other cars will share that weight distribution, as in the GS460, 430 and 300, because although the V8s might be slightly heavier at the front, they're not going to have anything to balance it out at the back. Obviously, they're not going to have a battery pack. Same thing with 300. 300 might be slightly lighter at the front, but then it's not going to have anything to balance it out on the rear, therefore not technically make it 50-50, but I could be wrong on that. The GS450H comes with an LSD as standard, so that means skids and drifting and... No, not really, but it's still pretty cool that the car comes with an LSD, isn't it? So it's got electric power steering, or EPS, and it incorporates a variable gear steering ratio, which is VGRS. The Japanese and Toyota especially love their acronyms, don't they? Which alters the steering gear ratio according to the vehicle speed. This demands minimal steering efforts at low speed, with improved feel and feedback as speed increases. The VGRS system is linked to Adaptive Variable Suspension, AVS, and Lexus Vehicle Dynamics Integrated Management, Vedim System, helping maintain stability and increasing driving reward up to the limit of the car's performance capabilities. So I think that basically means it's just a variable speed rack or variable assistance. Back in the olden days, like in the 1990s and stuff like that, if you drive like a Civic from that time, the steering was super light and it was great, so you could park and drive around the city and then no problem at all. But then when you got on the motorway, it was a little bit kind of... not that it wasn't stable, it was just the power steering was like... It was on 11 anyway, so it was very light on the dual carriageway or the motorway. Because obviously as you speed up, you don't really need power steering influence as much. So around town, when parking, low speeds, it'll kick up the power steering, basically making the steering a lot lighter. But where you're at faster speeds, it'll reduce how much power steering assistance it gives you. Therefore, it'll feel more normal. I don't know if that's a weird flex or not, because I feel like all cars have had that, but maybe they haven't. But I think with it being electric, maybe it can do more trickery. But for a 2006 or 2007 car, that's still very impressive. When it comes to safety, the SEL, so mine's not an SEL, mine's just an SE, but the SEL has the radar cruise control. That has pre-collision system with adaptive cruise control. The adaptive cruise control, was... the radar cruise control. For a car at the time, 2006, to have radar cruise control is very impressive. A lot of cars nowadays don't have radar cruise control. The GS450H is also fitted with vehicle, the Vedim, and which coordinates ABS, electronic brake force distribution (EBD), traction control (TRC), and vehicle stability control (VSC), with active variable suspension (AVS), electric power steering (EBS), and variable gear ratio steering (VGRS) to improve stability and handling. So basically, the Vedim system, the Vehicle Integrated Dynamics Management, when you press on the brakes, it's got a brake force distribution controller, so that dictates how much brakes you get at the front and the rear. I'll come on to that later, but that's kind of linked to the hybrid system. Is ABS, traction control, stability control, all rolled into one. I don't know why they're making a big hoo-ha about that, but anyway. So the GS450H, or maybe the other GSs, but the 450H definitely has front knee, side, and curtain airbags as standard. SEL gets side airbags for rear seats, seatbelt pretensioners, and force limiters. But even as a standard GS will get front, knee, side, and curtain airbags as standard. The 450 gets a blue badge and scuff illumination, very nice. 18-inch wheels as standard, very nice. And if you got an SE, you get the Mark Levinson multimedia package system with 6-disc DVD auto changer, and the newer ones came with hard disk drives, but we'll get onto that later. Impressive stuff for the time anyway. So the GS450H was the second production model to benefit from technical sophistication and high performance attributes of Lexus hybrid engineering, following the RX 400H. The RX 400H was like the Jeep, or 4x4 SUV, whatever you want to call it. And that had a 3.3 litre engine, and I think with the hybrid it produced about 290 brake horsepower. Maybe that was four-wheel drive, I'm not 100% sure, or all-wheel drive. But this was definitely the first rear-wheel drive sports saloon to have hybrid. Obviously the Prius and the Insights were the original kind of hybrids. It's the world's first full hybrid powered vehicle, featuring classic front-engine rear-wheel drive configuration for sports driving dynamics, and it breaks the mold in luxury market by delivering a level of performance that falls between conventional premium segment V8s, excuse me, I can't read, and the high-performance counterparts, and the fuel efficiency comparable to petrol D segment. So basically what the Lexus kind of set up to do was they wanted a car that was going to be as fast as like not like an M5, but I think like a E500 550i. But they wanted, when it says D segment, I don't think that means diesel, I think that means like a smaller car. So I think that they wanted to kind of get something with maybe 3 Series or maybe 5 Series, 530 petrol consumption. So basically they wanted V8 power, but with kind of 4-cylinder or 6-cylinder fuel consumption. So I can read properly again now, my light's back on. So the 450 does not indicate engine capacity, but recognises power output comparable to conventional Lexus standard 4.5 V8 petrol engine. The H suffix indicates the car uses a hybrid system. So basically what they're trying to say is, although a 300 is a 3 litre and a 430 is a 430 and a 460 is a 4.6, the 450 isn't technically a 4.5, it's just something that would indicate that it has the power of a 4.5, and the H obviously signifies it's a hybrid, therefore you're going to get better fuel consumption as well. So in servicing and warranty, the hybrid system itself is maintenance free, as are the fuel filters, so there's no fuel filters to change in the car, and the oil in the transmission does not require changing. So they say. I would personally get changed every 100,000 miles. These sealed boxes for life, BMW do them, Mercedes do them, Toyota do them. It's a con. If they were sealed for life, why would they put fill and drain plugs on them? Why would the oil come out black? I think it's just so your car breaks and then you have to either buy a new one or pay thousands of pounds to get it replaced by them. Change the oil if you can. The air filter is designed to last for 40,000 miles before changing. Engine coolant replacement intervals are every 100,000 miles, and spark plugs are scheduled for changing at 60,000 miles. Air filters for 40,000 miles, maybe, but I'll change it before then. Coolant for every 100,000, again maybe, but if you can change it before then. And plugs scheduled for 60,000. So I don't know what sort of plugs they're using. Maybe they're using iridium ones, maybe because of the high compression ratio. But usually iridium plugs usually last for 80 to 100,000 miles in other engines, but maybe they're just platinum, or maybe just the way the engine works, they kind of on and off, it requires more maintenance. Anyway, but the engine itself is pretty low maintenance. The GS450H is also designed to run on mineral grade oil rather than more expensive synthetic kind. There's a lot of debate on that. What do we use? 0-20, 5x30. I mean, 5x30 is fine, 0-20 is fine, whatever your engine takes. Depending on what sort of climate you're in, whatever you're comfortable using, whatever, do your research, use whatever you want. Service intervals are every 2 years or 20,000 miles, with health and safety expansions annually or every 10,000 miles. Don't leave your car for 2,000 miles before you service it. Get it done every year. Get it done every half year if you can. I personally change my oil 6 to 8,000 miles. I know that's way off this 20,000 miles, but on other cars it's 12,000 miles. I prefer to just get fresh oil in there. You know that when you got a new filter and a new oil in there, I don't know, it just feels like the car runs better, it feels like you get better fuel consumption, and it feels like you're doing your car a favour. I don't like 20,000 mile intervals. After 2 years as well, depending on what sort of journeys you're doing, the oil can get acidic as well, and that can cause problems. So it's not just that your oil's going to go bad. After a while, your oil will actually, obviously still lubricate your engine, but it can start harming your engine. And over time and over years, it can eat away at things or take the plating off certain things. It's not worth it. Just change your oil. It's way cheaper changing oil regularly than it is having problems with your engine, in my opinion anyway. The schedule optimizes the component replacement cycle and also ensure owners are able to enjoy the full benefits of Lexus's legendary customer care, acknowledged by 9 successive gold awards in the annual JD Power and Associates survey. So obviously people bang on about Lexus customer service. I've heard some stories online that, you know, it's absolutely fantastic. So hopefully I'll never have to visit a Lexus dealership, because I don't have that sort of money, but it's interesting anyway. The 450H is covered by a Lexus 3-year, 60,000 mile manufacturer warranty, a 12-year anti-corrosion warranty, and for added peace of mind, the vehicle's high voltage battery and hybrid components are protected for a 5-year, 60,000 mile warranty. Now, that's obviously fantastic. If you bought this car, you thought, well, I can drive it for 5 years, and if I get any hybrid problems, you know, I'll phone up Toyota or phone up Lexus rather than they'll replace for me. A lot of people are saying that they actually extended that warranty up to 100,000 miles, and it wasn't just even 5 years. I think it was 7 years or 8 years, or was it even maybe 10 years? But it was definitely 7 years or 8 years maybe, and it was up to 100,000 miles, I'm sure. And sometimes, even after that, Lexus dealerships were, some of them anyway, were saying, you know, we'll give you a contribution, or we'll give you it cheaper, or whatever. They were trying to kind of help the guys out if they did have faulty battery packs. But then saying that there is cars out there with faulty battery packs, but you can get them refurbed by other people. But also I've seen cars with, you know, 180, 190,000 miles on them up for sale, and they're still, the battery packs are still working. Obviously they won't be as good as when they came out of the factory, but if they're running 80%, 90% as well, and you can get it refurbed, maybe change out some bad cells or some cells that start to suffer, you can be back up to 80, 90% health. It's not bad at all. So it's to save weight, the engine block, cylinder heads, head covers, oil pan, pistons, bearings for the connecting rods and the crankshaft are made of aluminium, and the connecting rods themselves are forged in high tensile steel. Thanks to advanced casting techniques, the aluminium block and cast iron liners are produced as a single unit, which reduce the space between the cylinder bores to just 11.5 mil. Integrating the engine within the Lexus hybrid drive system means there's no need for a starter motor, alternator or serpentine belt, as the V6 is started by the electric generator. So in the Prius and this car, the GS450H and all that kind of thing, your electric motor starts your car, so it's your starter motor. As you're kind of freewheeling and stuff like that, or as it's spinning, it's your obviously regenerating your high voltage battery, but it's also your alternator running all your 12 volt appliances as well. And it is you don't need a serpentine belt, basically like a fan belt, run your air conditioning and stuff like that, because that's all electric, but I'll get into that in just a second. So a little bit more about the D4s system, which is the dual injection system, which is the port injection and the direct injection D4s, which the S stands for superior. So it says the system port injectors have 12 holes, enabling fuel to be injected at a maximum pressure of 4 bar. That is the port injectors. The in-cylinder injectors have a twin rectangular slits measuring 0.52 by 0.13 millimeters, producing a double fan injection pattern to produce the most homogeneous fuel-air mixture possible. In-cylinder injection is performed at a maximum of 13 bar as a reference value for petrol engines. So basically, the port injection's running at a maximum of 4 bar, and the direct injection's running at a maximum of 13 bar. So under cold start conditions, the D4S employs port injection during intake and direct injection during compression. This produces an air-fuel mixture ratio of 15 or 16 to 1. The richer mixture raises the combustion temperature and contributes to a quicker warm-up of the two thin-wall catalysts, while the hybrid system's electronic management maintains an engine speed that minimises emissions, something that is not possible in a conventional engine. Now, I've noticed about that car, but the GS450H. When you start it and it's cold and it's kind of running for a bit, I've always thought this, the exhaust smells a bit rich. If you've been around kind of tuning cars, you know what rich cars running rich. I always thought, oh, this car's running a bit rich. I thought it must sort itself out. But when it is warm, like I said, you don't get that smell anymore. So obviously it's just trying to heat up its carts. But it is clever that because it's got two different injectors, it can use them differently to heat the cart up. So at idle, the engine runs on direct injection alone due to its higher efficiency. When the engine is running under a low to medium load at lower speeds, both direct and port injection systems are used during the intake stroke. This creates a homogeneous 12 to 15 to 1 air-fuel ratio that stabilizes combustion, improves fuel efficiency, and reduces emissions. When the engine is running under heavy loads, the direct injection system alone is employed. This achieves an intake cooling effect by injecting fuel directly into the combustion chamber, improving the efficiency of each charge. Once again, 12 to 15 to 1 stoichiometric air-fuel ratio is affected during the intake stroke. By reducing pre-ignition tendencies, D4S also allows for high engine compression ratio of 11.8 to 1, improving engine efficiency. So again, this is something I didn't realise. I thought during idle, I thought I'd be using the port injection. I don't know why. I just assumed port injection because it thingies it under less pressure. I thought, it'll probably just use that, and then under higher loads it'll use direct injection. But under when it's just idling, it's using direct injection because it's obviously more efficient. When you're running under low to medium loads, it's using both direct and port injections during the intake stroke. And then under heavy loads, it's just direct injection alone because obviously it's more efficient. What's the point in running direct and port injection? Well, one, you get the controlling of fueling, like it was saying. So under idle, you can do it this way, and low to medium, you can do it the other way, and then you can also heat up the carts by injecting it a certain way. The other thing as well is reliability. When manufacturers move to GDI or direct injection or DI or whatever you want to call it, because there's no port injectors, the intake valves would get coked up with carbon, and over time they would obviously stop sealing. So what you'd have to do is you'd have to kind of take off a lot of the stuff, and you'd have to get the valves, I think it's walnut blasted or decarbonized, and there's loads of people, there was spraying oven cleaner in their heads, and it was aluminium, and some of the stuff worked, but I think walnut cleaning was one of the best kind of thingies. I think BMW were big into that as well back in the days when they were just using direct injection. And obviously that was causing people thousands of pounds worth of damage on their cars, not when they're new, but maybe when they were 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and these cars were becoming very expensive to maintain because you'd blast them, obviously, and then the crankcase and carbon would kind of gunk up on the valves because there's no fuel to wash them off. So running a system with port and direct injection ensures that you're getting the efficiency of direct injection, but also the cleaning and reliability of port injection. So it's a really good system. I do quite like it. You also get dual Vvti, which is variable valve timing intelligent, and that provides the new V6 well, this engine when it was new, with continuously variable valve timing to both intake and exhaust camshafts, varying between 60 and 35 degrees respectively. This improves performance, fuel consumption and emissions. The system has been specifically adapted to suit the characteristics of the Lexus hybrid drive system, with the intake timing retarded and the valves opening earlier and closing later than usual. So maybe that's where we're losing the power on this engine. If they ran kind of conventional timings and they tuned the Vvti for power, maybe it would make close to that 310, 313 kind of horsepower number, whereas we only get 292 in this car. The V6 engine exhaust incorporates a twin-wall stainless steel manifold to reduce noise, improve heat resistance, and accelerates catalyst to warm up. Pressure control valves in both main silencers close to reduce noise at low speed, opening as speed rises to reduce back pressure and enhance engine performance. So from what I read there, and I could be wrong, it seems like this car's got like some sort of butterfly valves on it, and they're obviously opening and closing. It says here to kind of help, well, to reduce noise and improve heat resistance and accelerate catalyst warm up. But as you floor it, obviously, then it'll reduce back pressure and enhance engine performance. That's very interesting though, because I mean, if you've ever had like a cutout or something in your car, or even, you know, like a butterfly valve, if you've got like a really loud exhaust and you don't want to be pulled over by the police, you get electric ones now. But back when I was younger, it was just it was like a little lever with a spring on it, and you'd pull the lever, and the butterfly valve would close, and then you'd open it again by pushing it back in, or vice versa. So that's how you used to quieten your exhaust off. But we never did it to heat up the carts or improve efficiency or anything like that. So the battery as well. The battery is located in the boot. It was co-developed by Panasonic. It is designed to last as long as the other principal powertrain components, and is almost 100% recyclable. Is automatically recharged by the hybrid system. It requires no external charging. A crucial factor in achieving such high durability is the nature of the battery's charge and discharge cycles. The hybrid ECU linked to the battery monitoring unit ensures that the state of charge SoC never reaches high or low extremes and controls the speed of recharge and discharge. So Panasonic said it was a Panasonic battery that they used in the cells in the back. It says almost 100% recyclable. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not. It's saying it's automatically recharged by the hybrid system. I don't know if this is kind of the start of Toyota's marketing of, self-charging hybrids, which is, yeah. I mean, I've done a video kind of saying how to get better at MPG, but what I've said about self-charging hybrids is there's no free lunch. If you go if you go down a hill, you're going to have to go up a hill at some point, so you've not really gotten any free energy because you're going to have to expend it to go back up anyway. But yeah, so it says about the state of charge, it never lets get near extremes. I think I've seen a few cars that have got dodgy batteries, and the state of charge is obviously really low, and the batteries become red. But generally, this car will keep it between 80% and 20%. It'll never usually go much lower, and it'll never usually go much higher. If you are looking for a car and, you know, it's on red all the time, or maybe it's, you know, maxed out as 100% all the time, then maybe just get it checked out, because usually the car kind of fluctuates between that kind of 25 to 80% range. And that's just obviously to keep the battery healthy. So the two-stage motor reduction gear, the longitudinal hybrid transmission incorporates a two-stage motor reduction gear coupled directly to the electric motor. A hydraulic control unit, similar to a very compact automatic gearbox, automatically switches the bearing between low and high. So the low is 3.900 and the high is 1.900. In normal condition, during acceleration, the reduction system will make an imperceptible gear change at around 56 miles per hour. Thus, the twin-stage gearing generates maximum low gear wheel torque for significantly enhanced acceleration. So that's the CVT basically. I'm sure you guys have noticed that, you know, you're going around town and the car, it's not that it's not a CVT obviously, but it never really revs that high when you're kind of going around town. But when you floor it, you'll hear it rev up to a certain stage, and then about 56 miles an hour, it'll kind of dip for just, I mean, it says imperceptible. You can definitely kind of see it. You don't necessarily feel it, but you hear the engine kind of go, and then it really kind of, your clocks will go up to 250 kilowatts, and then it really goes, and then it shoots off. So it does set imperceptible, but you can definitely feel it. But it is definitely interesting that it's around 56 miles per hour, because I've always thought I said maybe 60 miles an hour, or maybe it's 50 miles an hour, but 56 is kind of about right. The eCVT incorporates a 6-speed sequential mode, engaged by moving the gear lever towards the S position. This feature improves the vehicle control and enhances the driving experience. Now, I never understood the point of this. I thought the whole point of CVT is that it sits at a certain RPM, you're getting the maximum amount of power constantly, you floor it, you go faster, quicker. That's the whole point of CVT. And there's less losses than, a normal torque converted automatic. What the hell is the point in an S mode? What's the hell the point in mimicking ratios? Because that's not how CVT works. And it's stupid. And when I tried it, I was like, "This is stupid. I don't like the way it drives. It drives terribly, in my opinion." It's not like when you're in a normal car, even if it's a torque converted one, and you put it in Tiptronic, and you can shift down gears and it revs higher. I mean, it kind of does, but that's not the point in it. So this is what's interesting. It says the new feature includes vehicle control and enhanced driving experiences, mimicking step gear change feel of conventional sequential mode automatic. All upshifts from first to fifth are made automatically, with the driver selecting sixth, when desired, and each of the 6 sequential steps in gearing offer an equal number of engine brake force levels. Now that's the thing that's interesting. So if you're going down a hill, you can slap it into S mode or Tiptronic, and what it'll actually do is it'll obviously engine brake. I don't know if it's in the literature here, but I've read that. So let's just say you're going down a really, really steep hill and your car's fully loaded. There's 5 guys in here, so the car weighs 15 tons or whatever. And you're going down the hill. If you're pressing on the brakes, obviously you're going to get regen, but you'll be working your brakes. So a more efficient way to do it would be to lower the ratio of the gearbox, so you're getting more engine braking. But you don't just get engine braking by revving the car higher and then obviously getting the engine braking that way. What this car does is, because it's a little bit cleverer, it knows that when you put it into manual mode and you are selecting the gears, it'll actually regen more. So it'll understand, it'll say, right, okay, so I'm needing more regen. And it'll change the distribution of the brake force. So, again, it's to maximize the amount of regen. So it might brake the front more or the rear less or something like that. But it's basically so you're maximizing regen and efficiency rather than just kind of letting the engine kind of, thingy all the energy with friction and all that kind of stuff. So it's very interesting. So the 450 body and chassis, the platform on the GS450H provides excellent torsional stiffness. Again, that might be true. This supports the world's first purpose-developed rear-wheel drive hybrid powertrain with a range of technological innovations designed to deliver a superb sporting driving dynamics. I don't know about that. I love this car. I think it's great. But sporty, it's fast. I'll give it that. Would I want to take this on a B road? No. Maybe it is pretty sporty. Like if you are driving like A roads and the roads are quite wide and quite nice and they're kind of like long sweeping roads, then yeah, I suppose it is sporty. But sporty to me is kind of like B roads and small crappy roads like that, and you're kind of working your way through them. A car like that for that? No. But yeah, I suppose it could be sporty in its own way. So the front suspension, the front high mount double wishbone suspension, so it's got a double wishbone at the front, combines lightweight forged aluminum, I'm not even American, aluminium knuckles with high tensile steel arms and hollow anti-roll bars to reduce unsprung weight. So that's interesting, the fact that they've gone through all that work to put aluminium, hollow anti-roll bars, all to reduce unsprung weight. I know obviously unsprung weight, if you reduce unsprung weight, it's the best way to take weight off a car. But it's also weird that they did it on such a heavy car. The forward mounted power steering gear and low toe variation along the suspension stroke promote a more linear yaw response, precise steering, control and excellent straight line high speed stability. So I think they're just saying double wishbone's good and the way they've done it means that when the wheel moves, it stays more stable. I think that's what they're saying anyway. So the rear suspension, at the rear, the advanced multi-link setup features toe control arms, an aluminium rear axle carrier. The components offer stiffness to help reduce unsprung weight. Again, reducing unsprung weight, contributing to the level of ride comfort and high cornering stability. So maybe reducing unsprung weight is a big part of making the suspension more efficient. I suppose if it's lighter, it probably moves easier. I've always wondered that when I've seen like S classes and 7 Series and LSs and higher end cars like that. Why would they bother with unsprung weight? Because I know that unsprung weight is better to be reduced, but I always thought that was more of a sporty thing. But again, maybe it increases how efficiently the suspension works. So there's some quite clever things here. So it says using a double linked upper arm and integrating bearings and the hub optimize. Using a double linked upper arm and integrated bearings and hub optimizes the system geometry, giving high rigidity and significantly reduced weight. Using the multi-link design makes it possible to balance handling, stability and ride comfort. The upper arms help reduce upward spring motion, the mid-arm reduces body roll, and the lower arm provides an improved anti-lift, anti-squat ratio. Now, I've worked on a lot of cars with multi-link, because that's what most cars come with nowadays. But I've never actually realised that different arms do different things. I just thought, they've probably got to throw all them different arms in there for strength. And maybe that's part of it. But it's interesting that the upper arm helps reduce the upward spring motion, the mid-arm reduces body roll, and the lower arm provides, anti-lift and anti-squat. That's really interesting. So they obviously did put some thought into how this kind of Lexus was to ride and how sporty it was to be and how comfortable it was to be. It is interesting. So the GS450H also has hill assist control, which I always thought was weird because I was like, it's an automatic. But hill assist control, which is linked to the vehicle's ECB, detects any slipping during hill starts and automatically increases brake pressure to all four wheels to give the driver ample time to step from the brake to accelerator pedal without moving the vehicle backwards. So that's interesting. So let's just say you're on a hill, you put it in park, you press your brake, you put it in drive, and then by the time you get from that to your pedal, it'll kind of keep the brakes on for you just a little bit longer, just so that time that you move your foot from the middle pedal to the accelerator pedal, you've not rolled back into a car. So that's interesting. I wonder if that's like an electronic system, like the W211's SBS, or if it's just, it just keeps the master cylinder kind of charged for a little bit longer. I'm not sure how that works, but that's interesting anyway. You also get adaptive front lighting system, AFS. The adaptive front lighting system, AFS, improves nighttime vision when cornering by swiveling the high intensity discharge headlights, HIDs, through up to 15 degrees in line with the vehicle speed and steering angle. So basically, if you're driving, as you turn the steering wheel, your lights will kind of steer. It's not saying that you can see around corners, but it's kind of cool. As you're driving, it'll kind of move the headlights. I've seen this on cars that are a lot newer, like maybe 10 years newer, and it does definitely work. It's a good system to have, actually, but it's one of them things that on other cars I was always kind of scared it broke, but hopefully in this Lexus it'll be alright. But it's a very clever system to have, and in 2006 it was fantastic. So the body structure of the GS was created with the express aim of achieving class-leading levels of safety in terms of full frontal, offset and side-on collisions. The achievement of this ambition is independently acknowledged by the GS gaining the top Euro NCAP 5-star rating for adult occupant crash protection. It was also awarded 4 stars for child protection. So obviously it's a very safe car. You get the curtain airbags and the side airbags and the front airbags and all that kind of good stuff. The body shell has numerous reinforcements which improve its energy absorption performance, including thickened cross member and extensive use of high tensile steel. The body shell has numerous reinforcements which improve its energy absorption performance, including thickened cross members, extensive use of high tensile steel to promote high skeletal strength. Maybe that's where some of the weight comes from. No, but it's good to be in a stiff car because one, or not a stiff car necessarily, sorry, a well-designed car, because obviously it'll probably add stiffness, but in a crash, you don't want it to be super stiff because you're going to get chucked around in here. You want something that'll actually absorb the impact, and obviously, hopefully you and your friends or your family will walk out, obviously not dead. I suppose that's kind of the aim of it. The engine's rear support member is designed to separate from the floor panel under the collision, loading from the engine and transmission during a frontal impact. Thus, this cuts the risk of the engine into the cabin and thus reduces the risk of the front seat passengers suffering chest and foot injuries. So that's really clever. I think what it's basically saying, there's failure points in the front that if a car gets hit at a certain way, the engine and gearbox will kind of go their own way, rather than if you're in a normal car and somebody crashed into you, the way the engine's bolted in, with it being heavy, and obviously you need to bolt it in properly to the car, otherwise it's going to shake all over the place. If you crashed a frontal thingy with a normal car, it's just going to push the engine and the gearbox in. It could crush your feet, your knees, and it could even push everything up to your chest, like the steering wheel and all that kind of stuff, which wouldn't be good. But it's clever, obviously, that it'll disconnect there. So that's really good as well. So the exterior of the GS450 or the GS300 as well was, as I said before, the L Finesse. So it said the GS450 shares numerous design cues with both IS and LS saloons, mixing contrasting simple and complex elements in a strong and purposeful overall shape with a striking convex and concave shadow surfacing. When it says IS and LS, I'm assuming it means the LS 460 and the IS 250, because it doesn't really look much like an IS 200 or an LS 400, or even a 430. But anyway, at the front, the grille is set lower than the headlamps to emphasise the vehicle's dynamic stance. Ooh, dynamic stance. The shape of the headlamp clusters follows the arrowhead motif, which flows through the strong coachwork lines on the bonnet and upper front bumper. This key L Finesse motif is also evidenced in the sculpting of the taillight clusters and the slingshot profile at the rear end of the side glazing by the C-pillar. The strength of the slingshot. Okay. I think basically what it's just saying is there's some sort of like arrowhead that it's going for. But I really love the look of this car. I've always banged on about it. But it always reminds me like a fastback, and I do agree that it's like a really kind of like strong and striking car, especially for Lexus. I mean, Lexus is known for making super boring looking cars. When it came out with this was like kind of super exciting compared to the other cars that it released. But yeah, I really love the kind of rear and the side, and even the front as well. But I really do think it's a striking car. The vehicle boasts one of the lowest drag coefficients in its segment, 0.27, thanks to a new comprehensive aerodynamic package that extends from the smooth flowing bodywork with the narrow panel gaps and minimal protrusions to a series of strategic underbody elements that smooth the airflow beneath the car. Now, you see this a lot in new cars, smoothing the airflow beneath the car. There'll be a lot of panels. People who work on cars, like myself, we hate them because it's another 10 screws to take off. It's another 10 screws to break. It's another 10 screws to get rusted in place. It's a pain in the backside. But I do understand that if you're going down the dual carriageway or motorway at 70 miles an hour, the air is going to flow much, much better underneath the car if it's a flat surface, rather than having your exhaust sticking out and cables and wires and all sorts of things. I mean, of course, it's just going to flow better, and that should manifest itself as better fuel economy, and it should be more stable under speed, and it should also be kind of quieter. Yeah, and that is something that for 2006 when this car came in, BMW and Mercedes was kind of starting to do that sort of stuff, but not obviously to the effect they're doing it now. And I mean, like, if you look at more modern cars now, pretty much the whole car is kind of, covered up. But this was the start of that era. So, yeah, there was obviously annoyances to it, but it's also quite impressive that they were doing things like that. My Honda, for example, it's 2008. That doesn't have nowhere near as much paneling underneath as the Lexus does. But again, I think the price points were different when they came out. The fundamental influence of the L Finesse extends to the cabin, where qualities of incisive simplicity, intriguing elegance are expressed in a bold one-motion design that fuses luxury and dynamic style. High quality wood, elegant metals, highlights and leather accents are combined with unprecedented high levels of fit and finish that are characteristics of Lexus's craftsmanship and attention to detail. Now, that's a lot of big words there, in my opinion, just to say it's a nice cabin. I mean, they're using words like incisive simplicity, intriguing elegance, and one motion. What the hell does that even mean? They're right, they do use a lot of nice metal in here. The gear stick, this little thingy here is metal. There's little metal things like throughout the cabin. The door handles, I think, are metal. There's leather everywhere. I mean, it's pretty hard. Everything you touch basically is leather, metal, or wood. Pretty much, for the most part anyway. Obviously there's some plastics for, like on the dash and things like that. But generally, all your touch points are really solid in this car. I can't remember who said it, but they said something like, why can't I get the materials that I enjoy in my house and my car? So wood, metal and leather. And that kind of makes sense. And for the time of car, it is quite a conservative and boring design. But I personally think that this has aged much nicer than an equivalent 5 Series at the time. I wasn't really a fan of that dash design. I did like the W211 design, but I do think that this one's just easier to work. And it is a little bit nicer as well. It's just a bit... it's very Japanese, and I do like that because, the quality's gone into engineering. But it is actually one of the things, though. It says high quality wood, elegant metal highlights, and leather accents. Yep. It says unprecedented levels of high levels of fit and finish. Now that's one thing I could argue with actually. Lexuses are legendary and things like that, but this model of Lexus did suffer from having creaky dashes. Now, from what I understand, I think it was a recall, and I think it was just, you needed some like foam pads, or, there was a few things that need to be stuck in there. But if you bought this car for 50 grand or whatever when it came out new, it shouldn't really be creaking. Like, for example, I'm pressing on the elbow rest here, I'm not sure if you can hear this. It's not a massive creak, but my Honda doesn't creak like that, and I don't know, I'm not saying it's a less good of a car because I love my Honda, it's a fantastic car, but a Lexus shouldn't be this creaky. But from what I've seen in the 2012 models up, they fixed all this stuff, and the build qualities are kind of really, really fantastic. Not to say this build quality is bad, but it's just not as legendary as like the newer ones or the LS400. The quality of seamless anticipation, again here they go, seamless anticipation is witnessed in first contact with a vehicle through its bespoke entry sequence lighting. The illumination system coordinates 11 different light sources, many of which use LED technology, before, during and immediately after entry to the cabin. Each move is anticipated through lighting focused in the key areas such as the footwells, directly above the steering wheel and seats, the engine start button and even the door handles. The electrically adjustable seats have a backboard type head restraint which automatically rises when the seat base is retracted to accommodate taller occupants. Another example of vehicle seamless anticipation qualities. So when you approach this car with the key in your pocket, because it's got keyless entry, the puddle light will come on. So that's a light from the mirror shining down the way. There's a little light on the handle to let you in, and then as you open that, it'll start to illuminate the cabin, and it does it like, it's not just the lights come on, it's soft and it kind of goes on, and then you close the door, the lights will fade off, but they'll do it in like a little sequence, so it won't be just like they'll go off. It's like somebody's, there's a little guy behind the thingy slowly turning off the lights, or dimming off these lights. So, I mean, it is nice, but saying seamless anticipation is a bit thingy. When you get in the car as well, you press the brake pedal, you press the power button, your steering wheel kind of comes up to meet you as well, which is kind of gives you a bit more room if you're a bigger guy. I mean, I'm a bigger guy, but, well, when I said bigger, I mean my stomach, but it's not like I can't fit in with the steering wheel the way it is. But maybe it's for older people as well. I mean, I don't know. That is Lexus' core customer base. It says it's got... Another thing it has is Optitron instrumentation with ECD. So the GS450H features a light-sensitive Optitron instrument binnacle with metal dials. It also marks a world's first with electronic chromatic device ECD glass to combat glare and ensure the instruments can be clearly read under all light conditions. ECD uses a light sensor built into the high-mounted rear stop lamp to determine conditions. In direct sunlight, ECD automatically reduces the glass transparency by up to 70%. In normal or snowy condition, ECD is inactive, increasing the transparency to render the dials brighter. So that's interesting. I mean, I do love the metal dials in this car. They don't really look that good in photos, but when they're in front of you, they look really good. They look like machine dials. So, but apparently the glass on them has ECD, which is electronic chromatic devices. So there's a sensor on where your right rear light is, and in direct sunlight, it reduces the glass transparency up to 70%, therefore making it dimmer, I think. And in normal snowy conditions, the ECD is inactive, increasing the transparency to render the dial brighter. So yeah, it basically changes the transparency of the glass, therefore making it brighter or dimmer, therefore making it easier to read. Which is interesting, because they could have just put in a switch and made the lights go up and down rather than dimming the glass, but hey, why not? So Lexus also boasts that it's the first car to be fully electric air conditioning system, incorporating an electrically activated compressor and water pump. Using electric power isolates the air conditioning system from the car's engine, which means its operation has minimal impact on the running of the Lexus hybrid drive system or the vehicle's fuel efficiency. Now, I personally think, obviously, the reason they did this was rather than affecting parasitic losses, so basically, running on a belt, taking a little bit of power for itself, I think it's just so it works while the engine's off, and obviously during stop-start as well. So if you have a normal engine, the air conditioning compressor is run off like a little pulley or a wheel, and there's a clutch that'll kind of stick on and off of that. But basically, if your engine's not spinning, the compressor's not spinning, therefore no air conditioning. So if you're idling the car, it'll be running. If you're driving the car, it'll be running. But if you turn the car off, but even if you leave the electronics on, so if you turn the car off but put it on so your fans are still on, you're not getting any air conditioning because the compressor's not running. I think the GS450H has got fully electric air conditioning because it can run that system off its battery, so it can keep the cabin cool during start-stop thingy. So if you stop for a long time and the battery's low, the engine will kick back in again. But generally, otherwise, it'll just kind of keep running the air conditioning. Or if you're kind of doing like a pulse and glide style driving, as you kind of let your foot off the accelerator, press it very slightly, so you're just getting the electric motor going. Otherwise, either if you had the air conditioning on, the engine wouldn't switch off, or if you did that, then so if you're driving down the road and you do the kind of pulse and glide where you put your foot in the accelerator, accelerate up speed, let off the accelerator, just press the accelerator just a little bit, just so you're running off of electric mode only, the engine wouldn't be able to cut out if you're using air conditioning, because obviously the engine would need to be spinning the compressor, but obviously with it being electric, it'll just run off the battery, so you're getting the engine's cutting out, therefore you're getting the fuel saving. That's the word I was looking for. So it is interesting, but I think that's more of the reason they've done it, rather than saying, it's just so it's not affecting fuel savings. But rather than the parasitic loss, I think it's more the fact that you can drive fully on electric. The electronic climate control operates independently on the left and right hand sides of the cabin, so dual zone basically. The automatic control of the upper and lower air zones, and automatic cool air bypass control. The system delivers precise control and a draft-free operation by using humidity sensor and a complex neural network of sensors that mimic the human nervous system. Just say it uses sensors. Why does it have to mimic the human nervous system? But it is interesting the fact that it says it has upper and lower zones and an automatic cool air bypass control. Don't know what that means, but it's interesting anyway. Fan noise is significantly reduced thanks to extensive use of sound absorbent materials and a sound reflective profile in the ducting. Very clever. The front side window defrosters are located at the bottom of the A pillar, for greater efficiency. Okay, so that's something to notice. It's very interesting. The system also features an automatic recirculation mode, which is linked to a sensor which detects nitrogen oxides, hydrocarbons, and carbon monoxide, prevents exhaust gases from entering the cabin. A pollen removal mode frees the cabin from airborne allergens, working to efficiency of 97%. So, again, what that's saying is that rather than just blowing on the window from your kind of side vents, they've got their own vents, which is kind of clever. The system also uses an automatic recirculation mode. I'm sure cars have had that for a while, but basically there's like a little, the sensor's like a little nose, and it'll smell the air and it'll be like, okay, there's too many nitrogen oxides and hydrocarbons. Let's just say so you're in the city and you're backed up in traffic. It'll stick recirculation on. But if you're out in the countryside and the air's fresh, it'll kind of sniff around and say, it's pretty fresh. So it'll bring fresh air in. As it's bringing fresh air in, you've got a pollen removal mode, which removes 97%. So that must be some sort of HEPA filter, I'd imagine. Maybe even just a carbon filter. But it is really handy if you've got hay fever. You can drive down the road and you won't be sneezing and having watery eyes and all that kind of stuff. The SE grade models and SEL grade models, but not always. I've seen some cars with Mark Levinson systems, but they're equipped with 10-speaker premium audio system with a single slot in-dash 6 CD changer. Yeah, there's a 6 CD changer in-dash. There's also a tape deck. Now I know, Japanese people love their tape decks, but what the hell, man? Come on, this is a 2006, 2007 car. This has got hybrid and the world's first hybrid and, tinting glass and this and that, and they gave me a tape drive. I mean, like, what am I don't understand. At least it's not a mini disc player, but still, I don't understand why they give a tape deck in this. I suppose it's an easy way for you to plug your phone in, though. If you get one of them tape deck to aux things, then maybe that's what that's for. But yeah, it's a 10-speaker system anyway, and it really bangs. The screen is a VGA, video graphics array, and it runs at a resolution of 800 by 480 pixels. So that's quite a low res screen by today's standards. But back then, I think that would have been a pretty high res screen, and it's got 32,000 colors. So that's like terrible in today's standard. It looks really bad on camera, but when you're here in like real life, it doesn't look that bad because you're not generally staring at it and you're not obviously consuming any media on it. But yeah, that's pretty bad, I suppose. But it does the job, and that's the main thing. To be honest, the only thing I use it for is the hybrid thing where it shows you what's charging and what's being used. That's the only kind of real thing I use. But anyway, so you get Lexus Parking Assist Monitor. The rear Parking Assist Monitor features a video camera mounted in the rear number plate surround that feeds a real-time full-color view of the area immediately behind the vehicle to display screen in the center console. So basically, it's got a rear camera. I don't know why they didn't say that. Further help in making safe reverse maneuvers can be gained from screen generating guidelines, which indicate the perspective path of the vehicle based on current steering angle for both series and parallel parking. So, I mean, that is clever. Some cars I've had that are kind of newer have had that. Basically, there'll be two lines, and it's going to kind of predict where you're going to go. So if you turn the steering wheel left, the two lines will kind of change, and therefore it'll show you where you'll roughly end up. It does make parking a lot quicker, because as you pull up to a thingy, obviously put it in reverse, the camera comes on, you can just see with the lines, and then you obviously you should check your mirrors and stuff like that, but you're less likely to kind of be checking them because the lines are kind of keeping you pretty kind of straight on, and then you got the camera there as well, so it does kind of it does make parking a lot quicker and easier, I suppose. The only bad thing is the camera does seem to get dirty in that position, but that's not its fault, I suppose. So I was saying about the key as well earlier, it's got a smart key. So it says when the electronic key comes within 0.7 to 1 meter of the locked door, it communicates with a transmitter built into the door handle and initiates automatic unlocking the moment the handle is touched. So on some Nissans, there's like a little button, but with this one, what you do is you come up to the car, the lights will kind of turn on, and then as soon as you touch the door to open it, it'll unlock, which is really cool. The key automatically activates the GS450H sequenced entry illumination, so that's all the illuminations. First, switching on the puddle lights and the door mirrors, followed by the main cabin dome lighting. Each car is equipped with 2 keys for different drivers. I don't have 2 keys, but if I wish I did, but I need to get another key made. But these keys can be programmed to store preferred personal settings, including position of the electronically adjustable seat, door mirrors, and steering wheel. The system can program to unlock 1, 2, or all 4 doors with a single press of the fob control. That's quite cool because there is memory seating in this car. You get 3 different options, but if you've got 2 keys, let's just say you and your wife drive the car, when you get in, it'll realise, you're coming in, So I'll open the door and I'll get in and the position will be for me. Let's just say I had a wife and it'd be Mrs. Ingenium's going to get in the car, so, you know, stick the seat to the roof and stick it right forward, because that's the way women seem to drive. That's stereotypical, I shouldn't say that. But do you know what I mean? It's really handy, the fact that you're not constantly adjusting the chair. That's one thing I do really like about this car, the memory seats. When you've got your perfect kind of seating position, you don't want anybody to mess that up, but whenever somebody touches it, they inevitably mess it up, so it's really nice having that feature. So yeah, that was a deep dive on the Lexus GS450H. I hope you guys learned something. It was a bit boring and a bit long and a bit stuttery, but there was a lot of good information there. If you give it a watch all the way through, send it to anybody else who's kind of interested in these Lexuses. Give me a subscribe if you want as well. Give me a subscribe. So that's kind of the deep dive and things you might not know about the GS450H. I hope it was interesting. I learned a lot of stuff. And yeah, I hope you kind of liked it. It is interesting if you're a GS450H owner, because there is a lot of things that this car has and does that I didn't realise, and that is interesting to see. If you want to see more content like this, or you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe as well if you're interested. And I've got a buyer's guide coming up soon. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Cheers guys, bye.